Hey guys, Claire here with Buster, who's hanging out on the edges of the frame today, so he might jump up and join us, but we'll see. I wanted to share with you one of my favorite cookbooks. You guys know how much I love Louis P. DeGouy. Such an unfortunate name. But if you've been watching the series on my vintage cookbook collection, and this is the first one I ever received from him, or by him. The Derrydale Game Cookbook. Apparently it's part of also there's like the Derrydale Game and Fish Cookbook. I'm not sure if they're presented as a unit or as two separate cookbooks, but I've only ever seen them as two separate ones, so that's what I'm going with. But this is one of the very first vintage cookbooks I received as a gift from my dad, actually. So I kind of wanted to share with you the note my dad wrote me. I thought it was funny. I love that this is going to be a jump cut to all of a sudden there being a giant dog on my body. What are you doing? Okay, I believe I was promising to read to you the end note my dad wrote me. What is your deal right now? From Brent Thomas, my dad. Because you never know when... Before I was so rudely interrupted by my dog, I was reading to you the note from my dad. Because you never know when you'll need a recipe for bear. Love, Dad. Oh my God, 09. That's 8 years ago. That's crazy. Oh my God. I love this book. It's mostly because of Louis P. DeGouey's writing. I love his writing. I think it's so fun. So I'm actually just going to read to you some of the stuff in here. Also, MFK Fisher, who is like my lady. I love her. Did the introduction for this book. So I'll read to you a little bit from here. The extraordinary thing about this book is not that it was published at all. It took courage to issue a limited edition of such basically restricted appeal, even in 1937. It's good to know that in 1937, even like MFK Fisher was like, no one needs this book, I don't know. Nor that some 15 years later, it is being published for a second time. It is, to my mind, that sure as shooting, which seems even surer these days than the old standbys Death and Taxes, the Derrydale Game Cookbook will be published 3 times, 4 times, etc. Its prose is not deathless. There are many better written books on both the theory and practice of gastronomy, although nowhere have I found anything more felicitous than in Monsieur DeGouey's discussion of geese and their wild, impetuous ways. Its formulas and recipes are not above reproach. In any compendium as exhaustive as this one, there are inevitable errors, some of them typographical, all of them human. Sometimes unimportant but annoying liberties are taken with such admitted masters as Briot Savarin, and quotation marks either shift about needlessly or never show up at all. That too is human and doubly forgivable from such a devout priest of gastronomy as DeGouy. So she's kind of shading him a little bit. But anyway, at the very end she does say, Louis DeGouey may have used the ladle rather than the feather for his pen, but what he wrote was indeed part and parcel of his spiritual skin, and that is why this book is still much more than a culinary curiosity and probably will remain so. I will say, like, I don't cook a lot of game just because I live in Los Angeles, so I don't have access to that kind of meat. But every now and then we'll have a friend who went duck hunting and now we have ducks, or venison will pop up at our local butcher shop, or we'll go visit Montana and there'll be, elk meat and things like that. So I am really excited about the possibility of getting to utilize this book. But for now, it's mostly just inspiration, and I just love the way he writes. So for instance, there's on page 124, there's a recipe for wild duck solianote, also called canard sauvage à Père François. So father, Père in French, François the Wise, as his neighbors used to call him, is dead today, dead of old age. He used to live in Sologne. The old lordly spruces and seemingly endless stretches of apple and beeches surround his large, well-kept farm, the Farm of the Wise, as it is still known today. During the long summer days, the brave old man used to rest in the shade of these trees, where the song of the wagtails and other birds mingled with that of the tree leaves, lulling him to sleep. He was a gentleman farmer in every sense of the word. He was also a gourmet, a connoisseur of fine food, and his succulent table was known miles around, while his cook, Rosa, a past master in culinary, was just as popular. He goes on to explain how he was able to basically get this recipe from Rosa. And I mean, it's very much of its time, where you basically clean, singe, and fill the cavity of a wild duck with its own liver, with chives, with shallots. Like Madeira is involved. It's very much a 1930s kind of recipe, but it's beautiful. And I love that introduction. I love getting to learn a little bit about Francois the Wise, about his cook Rosa. I just think it's darling. But anyway, I just wanted to share this book with you because Louis DeGouy is just one of my favorites. And this is an example of where even if you don't have any intention of, you know, cooking a bear or pheasant or whatever, the writing itself I think is really interesting, and I love the sort of window into a culture and a time that for me is long past. I don't know if I'm ever going to get to hang out in a hunting lodge in the 1930s, so this is pretty fun stuff. As usual, you can find books like this at Bonnie Slotnick's in New York, my favorite. Also, abebooks.com is another really great resource. Otherwise, eBay and Etsy. This, for instance, is a second printing. This is from 1950. So that's when MFK Fisher is doing the introduction. But yeah, like, I mean, go hunt it down. Sorry, weird choice of words. But it's a great book, and I love Louis DeGouy. You're honestly, if you buy a Louis P. DeGouy cookbook, you're gonna have some really great recipes and some really cool resources there as well. All right, cool. Well, thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye.